that, you see, what happens when you don't involve persons who are actually affected by the problem in the policy making is that you end up creating crazy policies like that dumb Children's Authority Act. So what you really need is to find out exactly where that pulse is, and let those persons begin to articulate how the systems that we create, when it trickles down to the person, I don't want to say the bottom, but trickles down to the person who's most affected, how sometimes it's an adverse relationship than we imagine. On the campaign, we realized that some things worked and some things didn't. What works, or what seems to work for political parties is a huge rally. So if a huge rally, plenty red, plenty yellow, plenty people waving banners, and you have a huge flag and a big TV screen. Now, unfortunately, that kind of didn't work for us. We felt if we get plenty of people and ride up in a political rally and walk about and hand out flyers, that was going to be very impacting. We'd meet a whole lot of people, and that would have the greatest person-to-person impact. Well, no, that doesn't happen actually. When you go to a political rally, everybody's drunk, and they're partying. And you kind of have to hand them the flyer, and then they kind of wait, and people, because you're not right sure, so they have to kind of read a little bit, and they have to do that thing where they're not sure if they understand what you're talking about. Anyhow, what did work though was what I was more afraid of. And that's the other thing, because I doing this work so long, you would imagine that I'd be afraid. But I was deathly afraid of going and talking to Gavin Nicholas. I felt, oh my gosh, he's going to be right there. What am I going to say? I'm going to say something stupid. And then, of course, he's going to think all gay people say stupid things. But that is what worked. When you get into a very small meeting, it was a sit down with Gavin. He did a series of things in Maraval, because he could never throw a real rally in Maraval. It's P&M area. But he had these little sit downs. And right, and so I kind of sat in front, and yeah, kind of stush. I mean, I looked around, and the ratio of white people to people of any other race was like, there's so much white people here. When I was done, I kind of went up to hand them the flyer, and we had a short a short conversation about the Children's Act. And he seemed, I don't know if he was faking it, but he seemed like he was genuinely impressed that somebody was having a conversation with him about the issues. And I think that goes a long way, and we should kind of pay attention to that as LGBTI persons. When campaigns come around, if we really want to make a dent, like, it's not just showing up at a political rally and waving your rainbow flag. It's actually just going and right up to your representative and talking to them. Some of the problems that I felt that happens when we try to do advocacy or movement building or activism for LGBTQI persons is that most of us are not civic minded. As I was saying, some of us are really just kind of insulated from the homophobia, and so we manage to go about our lives and live, and so you kind of say, well, that really doesn't affect me, that doesn't happen to me, and then for some of the persons who it actually does happen to, they're very, very busy figuring out how do I, for that trans girl who just got arrested in Woodford Square because she's selling sex, she's figuring out that she needs to make bail, or she's not thinking, oh my gosh, next time I meet my political, my MP, yeah, I need to mention this then. And so that's part of the issue, that we don't participate in politics in that way. And not just that, we don't understand the other ways that we do participate and that we can make that relevant. When feminists talk about, I love that phrase where they say that the personal is the political. Oh my God, it's fantastic. I had the guy who started Friends for Life is called Eswick Padmore. Tall fella. Very confusing kind of faces, very kind of gender neutral face, or androgynous face. And Eswick would paint his face to the nines and put on a scarf and tie it in a huge bow and walk down Port of Spain. Like, she relaxes here and put finger waves, like real craziness like that. And it was, for him it was a scandal. Or more, I don't know, or if he was just kind of living out his life, expressing himself in a way that he felt most comfortable. But the amazing thing about that is when you do that, people see that, they react to that. Not only that, but they begin to recognize that this kind of person is a person that exists in society. I tell everybody, I don't know if there's anybody here who might be lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, but people will make space for you. They will. If you show up with confidence, they will make space for you. The only reason why it happens in this country that people don't take on LGBTQI issues is we continue to hide and we continue to not be affected. We continue, or at least to act like we're not affected. They don't want to either lose their privilege or they enjoy the privilege so they don't recognize homophobia exists. It's so funny because I always felt like I had this kind of working class sentiment, and I used to always report to be a working class person. And my ex-partner used to say, well, no, you're middle class. And I kind of last week had this revelation. But to say that insulates me from a lot of the homophobia that happens. You jump in your car, you drive about, you can speak nice, you have a kind of middle class portrayal as, oh gosh, which Ameen? As Khadijah was. Allies for Justice, and our election campaign. So we kind of, almost like the network of NGOs, created a manifesto. And this manifesto came from the lived experiences of persons who are LGBTQI. It is not stuff, it's not the low-hanging fruit. When the families realize that they are that way and they would not change, because sometimes parents have difficulty dealing with it, and so they feel as if they have to take this hardline approach, and so they put the young person out of the house, and now they end up on the streets and they have to fend for themselves. Or you're living and your partner coming over too much, so the landlord kind of creates some kind of way and say, well, this new Children's Act that they came up with, that is absolutely insane, where they found it, like in complete wisdom, to decriminalize sexual activity between, and thanks Rachel, you kind of, I'd like to say Rachel was the one who made sure that I say this every time I'm on a podium. That's what children do. But if you have the same sex, then they penalize it. And in fact, it can go, thank you very much, it can go as high as life imprisonment. And why? Why the crap children, yeah. Now why the crap is this happening? It's happening because they felt that they did not want to create crazy. And I don't know if you could think about it, but just imagine for a second that you're a parent and your child is in school and he comes home and he says, your little boy says, mommy, so-and-so show me his penis. And then, sorry? So-and-so show me his penis. And then the mother is like, what is crazy? And that if you put therapy with the judicial system, that people have better lives. Now, if you ask Colin won't say wholeness and justice, he will say justice and wholeness, because Kaiso is the justice part. But part of the theoretical approach that we've kind of developed, that we just kind of created out of nowhere, myself and the other social worker, Keela Riley, is this notion of narratives of resistance. One of the things that we found is that if you meet that drag queen at the side of the road and you ask her, you begin to say, hey, tell me what all your problems now and what's hurting in your life. She doesn't want to talk about that. That's something she can't wrap her mind around it. If you put your mind there, next thing you need therapy tomorrow, you can't wake up and buy bread. But if you ask her, tell me about that time when you held stones behind the police, she would articulate that with rapid succession. And so what we begin to realize is our therapy has to include resistance. Listen to me. Homophobia exists in this country. And you can pussyfoot around it and you can be diplomatic and you can have short conversations in your own bathroom with your friend. But if you do not resist, I think that we have an obligation, that opposite thing when you have to do it? We have a duty to resist. Because as long as we exist, and everybody, and that's when I said we, everybody, not just LGBTQI persons, anybody. If you have an LGBTQI person in your family, if at any point in time you'd wake up in the night and thinking, ooh, why I had that very weird dream, yeah, it in you. Everybody everybody has a right to resist. And what we found is that when we put these narratives of resistance in our therapeutic intervention, what we find is that persons who are the most affected by homophobia, persons who are the working class and the poor, persons who, not Jowelle, trans, not you, you're real good, that they begin to have this notion of civic mindedness. It comes where somewhere a spark, somewhere deep down in the belly. And that only means that today we might have to sit down in a room and have a conversation about our political activism and LGBTQI persons, but tomorrow we're going to be having this in the streets. And that is what Wholeness and Justice seeks to do. That's what I, Colin, and the rest of the band of LGBTQI organizations that are in here are seeking to do. Thanks very much.